Good morning, everybody. For our theme, this time it is revisiting the actor's space.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Uh, and as you know, we have spoken the last time about the time. And we know that, of course, the time and the space relates to each other very much. We spoke about the time, which is in the actor's hand. Now it is the space, which is perhaps in the actor's hand, or even sometimes is taken out of the actor's hand. The time and the space, for me, it's the most thrilling parameters in the hands of the actor and the director. Because here is really, it's the power of the live art which really unfolds. We are sharing the space with the public. We are sharing the same time, the same space. At the same time, the actor on the stage can manipulate the time and the space through the art of acting and directing. We can move forward, we can move backwards, we can manipulate, we can accelerate, we can slow down, we can jump forward in the place from one to the other. So in fact, we are really little gods manipulating reality. And we know, for example, from our wonderful Shakespeare, he was the master of it. We learned from him how we can jump in time and space. And this is, of course, what we learned then very much from our wonderful teacher, Peter Brook. We need nothing else than the empty space to do so. So it is really in the hands of the actors to create space. The space, as we know, it is the space, it is somehow the third dimension. We are dealing with the third dimension. Now, scientists and philosophers introduced the time as being the fourth dimension. And today we are speaking easily about multi-dimensional spaces. We call them hyperspace. We speak about it, and in fact, we cannot really cope with it because we still cannot experience it. We can only speak about it, but still we are using hyperspace, not knowing or not feeling what exactly it is. So it's for me always a very strange, but also thrilling thing to do so. But we know now theater and art is moving in the virtual reality. It's moving to the augmented reality. Then we go to the mixed reality, we go to the extended reality, and whatever will come more. All of these are now really, let's say, alive parameters for the arts, which was a short time ago absolutely not thinkable. We are comfortable to understand the 3D, and we somehow start to be comfortable with the 4D. We can call it Raumzeit, space-time, or how the Russian literature scholar, it was Mikhail Bakhtin, called it chronotop. So the chronotopi become the basis for our modern dramaturgy, acting, directing. They are somehow, they speak about the relationship between place and the passage of time. We might touch this later. I'm now very brief, you see, in touching some aspects which we together and with my colleagues, we want to discuss in this meeting. Another aspect with the time space is, of course, this incredible acceleration of time. And at the same time, with the acceleration, I mean, everything is going faster. We move faster. We communicate faster. Everything is in the speeding up, leading to the complete stillstand. We spoke about it last time. We are sitting in front of our computer and don't move at all, but moving in time and space. Like Janice now in the early morning in New York, together with us on the same stage, in case we would do now a performance. So the space becomes a completely new understanding of artists. We have new chances. We have new uses. We have incredible new interesting opportunities for our art. And while we are exploring this in the time of pandemia, where we simply have to do it, the, let's say, old aspirations, the old dreams of having space together, time together physically, they are rising. Our theaters are closed, the normal space not exist, and actors are looking for new spaces. And also this we like to touch because we have already also in our team some nice experiences about this. New spaces apart from the theaters are opened. We have now, as we can see, two completely new understandings of spaces, which are not the theater for our theater making. They are in the space, in the virtual room, and they are out of the theater, opening secret spaces, community spaces, whatever. Now, with this short introduction, to give the circle, I want to open first the discussion circle to my team, and then please everyone feel, whenever you want, feel free to raise your hand or make a notice in the chat to say, I like to add something. We are not such a big group, so it's very nice to have a live discussion about your experiences with this very special time to use space. Now, my dear friends, Dimitris Tsiamis, my colleague from Greece, Olga Lapina from Denmark, and Riccardo Palmieri from Italy, I want to ask you to jump in with your first aspect, what you want to grab from my words, with your first, let's say, impression or your first thoughts, what you think are most interesting and most thrilling about this theme and most, let's say, moving and touching you in these days.
Well, I will take it now because you touched the subject of the new possibility because of the closing theater, and because we learned how to live with the virtual space. So in the winter time, when everything was closed, all of us learned how to use more and more the technology, more and more the digital life. But now with the I'm speaking from the Italian side, let's say, from the starting of the springtime, good season, we felt somehow a tension to explore the open air spaces as places for for theater, indeed. So it's somehow the you know, when the water always has the tension to fill up. To be equal, like this. So somehow this tension is bringing us outside of the theater. Somehow the community asks to theater to go out from his natural places, to meet somehow people that in theater I'm not going to. because it's closed, because now it's pandemia, there's a lot of stuff. But from this point of view, the experience to open new spaces for the theater is very interesting. Somehow it's changing the parameter of the past time when we use outside urban places for other reasons. Now it's more somehow it's more true, the need to go outside to meet the community, to meet different spaces where create event, theater, a live event somehow. It's for us, for our experience, somehow we try to open different spaces from the natural, I mean, riverside or wood and everything, then to other places like cemetery or museum, the yard, I mean, the always open air, to bring people to open different perspective for the spaces itself and to meet the art and the event of theater in a different life, in a different different eyes. What was interesting is the main question, how to relate as theater artists to places which are not theater places, to places which are not theater space. What is the difference? How we as theater maker, we can join and we can really work with these different spaces. Because of course, in the black box, we know somehow the rules. We know somehow how to manipulate it, how we as actor, we relate with it. But for example, on the riverside, how the actors could relate with the environment, with the noises, with the nature noises, means birds singing, water noise, and everything. How the actors can relate himself with everything he cannot expect, he cannot predict, because the variability are really more and more than the black box. What can happen? It's really it's very different from the director's point of view. Paradoxically, is easier because the space it's already there. It's like this. You cannot change it. You cannot pretend to make better than the beauty of the nature. You really cannot. But as actor, which I should perform, I should act something. This is good exercise, first of all, for the actor. Then it's really good. How to say? It's good training for the creativity and for the listening of the space. Try to find the rules. I think it's important in this case to try to connect with the space itself, try to live in the space more and more as possible, make longer rehearsing, make longer being in the place, trying to understand, to feel, to smell, to really to try to find a new connection with the place itself, with the space itself. Because before start to performing, you should be friend of the space. Because if you are not friend with the space, it's not nice. We learned it from the beginning in the school academy, in the theater academy. That's the first step. It should be learn where are you and somehow the rules, somehow what is, somehow everything. Then. So that's somehow the how to say the main question always, because it's always different. The space is outside space where we're going to perform outside. It's always different. It's ask always different training, different position, different understanding, different. How to say, yes, different rules simply. And from this point of view, it's interesting to understand how the actors really work to prepare the space, to prepare first himself to the space and then the space outside without really manipulate the space. So,
Ricardo, I would love, because I didn't want to interrupt you in this first explanation, perhaps you like to tell us a little bit about your performances, because I will simply share some of your images, what you send us. And perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about your experiences, because you were raising the questions how to deal, or that you have to deal very specifically with the space. And perhaps you like to make some comments on this experience, what you have been making in the last year.
okay. Yes. No, I'm sorry because I'm coughing and okay. So in this picture, it's in the cemetery, and we were performing Mozart and Salieri. It was well, it was quite hard in the very beginning to start to work there, because of course of the quietness of the place. It was clearly, it's banal, it's very simple, it's really peaceful place. The energy of inside the wall of the cemetery, it's absolutely peaceful. And ask silence, ask, you feel it, you feel that it's peace, beauty, respect. And so what we done, it was really somehow ask permission to do something there, not because of superstition, but because we are live people, and is not exactly our place in this moment. So we make training and some step inside, try to feel really the place, how it was working, how was the echoes of the place itself. Yes, this is again the cemetery. So because we start to perform in the sunset and we end in the night. So yeah, this is an no, I'm smiling because this was the first experiment in a community which has really few people live there. It's a small place, is on the mountain, and they call us and they invite us to create something there. And this was completely different, because it was a place which asked opposite energy, which was really opposite training, opposite work. It was need to be pushed, to be alive. So craziness and everything. This is a castle where we try. Here I think this was a storytelling. This one, because the place, it was very hard. When you perform in a hard place, because more beauty are the places, much harder is to work, because what you can add as artist, as actor, as director, you cannot add nothing. At least you can make worse than how it is like this. So the big work is always to try to be delicate, almost invisible. And when you make some action, you are doing this action for the place itself. It's really do nothing. This is for children. This one, and it's this is on the river. Clearly on the river.
Yes, this is, I think you referred in the beginning to, no,
Yes,
that it's how to deal with this open space, which is of
yes,
course energy flying away,
yes.
and how to accumulate energy, how to accumulate attention.
Yes, it's how accumulate for the actor is quite difficult because the inner feeling is let the energy going with the system clearly what is surrounding you. When you have the river that is bringing away, you really feel yourself that is going. Really, it's passing you. Of course, you feel it, but it's going. And the difficulty is to find a way as system of yourself to keep it and try to be with it.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, I just thought it's the right moment immediately to share some of these images, which is now really the aspects of space to go out. And I'm curious now of the comments to this. I mean, picking up from Dimitris or Olga, because this is one way of challenges if you challenge yourself with the space outside. And what does it mean for the actor, or when we're speaking about the other spaces, the spaces when we're going to the virtual side?
I probably because this conversation starts to be very practical, so I like to jump in on examples and conversation of concrete method of application. So I mean of the space in rehearsing, in performance producing, because there's a lot to say, but just to uh, probably comment on because it came to my mind looking at the examples, especially of the last examples of Ricardo's production. Well, technically, this type of production is a site-specific production. There is not, it's not a very new phenomenon, so it's quite established relationship already with the producers trying to explore the space outside of the theater, and critics that are merciless in explaining why it doesn't work usually, or if it works, then also why. So I think there is some luggage of experience in this field, and because, well, not necessarily only site specific, but in general, the idea of challenging the traditional space is very dear to me. So when in the beginning Christina asked a question, speak about what is dear to you, or what is actual in the moment for you, I can say that it's my personal conflict of interest, because they're two different things. I mean, one thing that is actual, or the reality which is dominating the life of theater practitioners, which is just like the most present, the most influential for us, unfortunately is not the most interesting. The most interesting for me, unfortunately, is not the most inspiring. I mean the situation of this forceful eviction from the theater spaces. So there are two line of thoughts. One is the consequence of this very specific corona-related consequences, and the other one is the history of relationship between theater and space in itself, because I think that this is extremely interesting from practical point of view. Context of theater making, because somewhat I see the possibility to tell the story of theater also as the story of relationship with the space. And what do I mean? In the center of the theater practice, the main object of the theater practice has always been the relationship between audience and the performance, from different point of view, from the content, from the idea, from the, I don't know, social aspect, political aspect, anthropological aspect, but it's what is happening between the performer and the one who perceives and observes or interrelates in some way with the performer, is kind of the main focus of our practices, of our methods. And I can see clearly how as little as defining the role of the space in this relationship can show us how this relationship can develop and can be different from each other. What I mean, I will not go too way back in the theater history, but just speaking about, let's say, about quite a recent theater history, the establishment of the professional directors theater model that was hugely present in the 20th century mostly. It is somehow the form that in the institution of the theater inherited some rules of the game, where the scene and the space of the audience is very separated, and it creates some sort of rules of the game that are usually quite clear for both participants of the theater events, because they come from the conventions and they come from some sort of, you know, our social background. How do we behave in theater and how do we organize the performance? I like to think about it also. I mean, besides all the, you know, ritualistic genesis of theater, besides all the sacredness which is separating the space of the performance from the, let's say, secular profane space of the audience, besides there are also, you know, pragmatical reasons, very simple reasons, such as making the actor being visible, so we can hear him, we can see him. So this has both reasoning besides this separation. And you can see that the most experiments on theater forms in 20th century were always related with the experiments on this division, this separation of space in theater. It is always absolutely connected. So starting from the proposition of the more traditional, more conventional space of the playhouse theater, or even the black box theater, or in this frontal form of perception of the performance, which follows, let's say, this idea of realistic acting, and follows the heritage of Stanislavskian way of thought about acting, leaving the audience somehow just in this position of observant, and making the audience somehow all the time forget that this space is actual theater, somehow making the stake on the idea that this is imaginary space, that imaginary space created by narrative or the scenography or whatever is more important than the, let's say, physical space. And then there is and with this conventional model starts to appear different dialogues throughout the history of modern theater practice, where let's say already Meyerhold, which if you know, he also brought in huge importance of the architecture of the theater, the organization of the space, not necessarily only in the context of performance, but the whole theater. There is wonderful propositions of how he wanted his theater to be built. This is, of course, very constructivism inspired, very futurism inspired, and so on. But his general understanding of the space is that it has to remain present. In other words, the theater must always be reminded that it's in theater, not to forget, but to be reminded that it's in the, you are in theater, and this is the premises of our aesthetics. This is the starting point of this conversation. Not to forget, not to fall into delusion, but opposite, to be very conscious about it. And then almost every new practitioner proposed his own understanding of this balance between the space of audience and space of the performance, and therefore also proposed some new form of theater. I love this tight relationship between space in theater, both physical but also imaginative and conventional, but the space and the theater aesthetics, theater form, the evolution of theater possibilities. So somehow following this logics is very natural, and it's a huge field of my interest. I mean, field of my huge interest. The field itself, I don't know how big it is. There's still mainly conventional spaces are dominant in theater, but this relationship between space and new form of theater makes it very interesting for theater practitioners also to modernize, to reconsider, to refresh on their theater practice through simply revisiting the space of the actor and the audience. So probably because I also practically work mainly in this field, I can speak a lot, but I don't. It's not probably the time and space for it. But the genre of or the whole series of genres that can be united under the umbrella of, you know, unconventional performances from the point of view of space. It's I think they propose in the first place new aesthetical, new practical tools for theater performance, because immersive practices and site-specific practices is quite well, not completely new, but still younger than other types of traditional performing. They are still in the focus of attention of modern practitioners and modern theater critics. Critics have this love-hate relationship with the immersive production because it's very attractive, but the truth is there is not so many good results, and the theater groups that we know that that work in this field, like Rimini Protocol, let's say in Germany, or Punch Drunk, or, you know, this type of theater groups. Thanks God that it's there is no one clear opinion what the changing of conventional space does for the theater, that it's still not one comfortable answer. It means that it's not yet the theater history books subject. It's still very hot. It's still very practical for those who work in theater today. Yeah, but I will stop here unless you have more questions about this field.
Thank you, Olga, because you opened this wide range, and I like how you elaborated it from the history point of view. And this is, I think, the interesting question for us: is or should the space be separated? Because yes, we know it's the actor space and the audience's space. Or when you said, or they are united, but still should know that it's now an extra space, that it's not the regular space. When we look from history, before the theaters were built, we were all outside and outdoor. And we have been in the big Greek amphitheater, and there was the common space, which was a theater space, but very common theater space, even a healing space. And you mentioned in your beginning also the sacred space, so that it's, yes, where it's doing theater, it's something, it's not the profane normal. And at the same time, we invite, or we even go to the profane or to the normal places. So how is this related? And I'm very curious about Dimitris, because I know that he's also working very strongly with this aspect of the sacred space, which is really gives another definition of the relationship of the actor to the space, and if this sacred space also belongs to the audience, or how you see this, let's say, triangle.
Yeah. Thank you, Christine, Olga, Ricardo, for your thoughts. I would like to also to start from the reality of this last year. with the pandemic. What, at least in Greece, in Athens that I stay, what we observed is, yes, theaters were closed. At the same time, there were not, this didn't really open any kind of artistic action or theatrical action in the public space at all. I mean, ideas, people were with friends, we were sharing, let's do this. I mean, in the frame and in the limits of the rules of the street, like solo performances, or but we never did, and nobody did. And we start to speak about this phenomenon because we said, look, in theory, if, I don't know, 5 years ago, we have thought what would happen if theaters will be closed, we will give the answer that we will find way, then we will go to the public space, to the urban space, we will, and things like this in theory, but in reality didn't happen. And this is quite interesting. Of course, it's question of the rules, the limitations. People were feeling that maybe they will do something in the middle of legal or illegal concerning the rules. Of course, the dominating sense that the public space don't belong to us during this period. Like the public space belongs to the virus now, and we take the right. Here in Greece, we were sending messages to go out, you know, that for 2 hours I have the right somehow to visit this space. So let's say the relation with the public urban space didn't grow at all. But absolutely the opposite. It was somehow it was not the common space. It was a space with many limitations and a sense of fear than a sense of belonging, which is absolutely the main element, let's say, the main principle for an artist, speaking about theater, to work with the space. What Ricardo before described as to be friend with the space, this sense of belonging. On the other hand, what it happened, at least at the first months of the lockdown, it was we saw somehow homemade performances, homemade artistic actions shared, I don't know, on Facebook, on so it started another space, let's say, of possibilities to open. And of course, the same with the education, like in the online academy, which we all shared through our courses in the online academy, how precious from some aspect this new space could be. Meaning from yes, from the possibilities that we have to be connected from our different countries and different time zones. Also, I think we sensed a kind of healing, as you said, Christine, healing dimension to this, because being in lockdown globally, you know, and this need of sharing, this need of connection, meeting together had also this this dimension. What I'm not perhaps ready to find a conclusion, because it's too early about this this new space and the possibilities that it gives to us. But let's say the phenomenon of these homemade performances and artistic actions after some period, I mean, the last months is not so hot anymore like it was in the beginning. So maybe it's people start, okay, in the beginning closed, you know, to express, to develop, to research the new space, but still something is missing. And people somehow, I have the sense they're waiting to see how they will uh, they will be in the new in this in the new conditions now with the distances that still we will have. And this is also quite interesting to see about space, because now we are in a condition that the understanding of being in space is dominated by rules of distance between humans. Of course, it's not so easy to find in this virtual space the elements of the sacred space. I mean, what we develop here as well. I think it's a strong space, let's say, of civilization, of sharing, but somehow we are we are in this frame, because in my understanding, somehow this sacred space, of course, it's defined from and differentiated from the secular, from the profane, but in a way also from the civilized space, the space of civilization, of this atmosphere of civilization that we normally use. And yes, it's what is interesting in the sacred space between others is this intention to connect through this space, defined sacred artistic space, to open the connection between two other spaces, meaning the heavens and earth. And this is we can understand it's quite hard somehow through this very horizontal in a way or circular global earthly shape dimension to create this to open these spaces, the connection between these two spaces, let's say, that the sacred or the artistic is looking for. So yes, these are some.
I actually would like to probably jump in with a little comment specifically on this question that Dimitris touched, is about the shift of the space. A lot of bad and difficult and tragic and sad things can be said, of course, and about this eviction from theaters and so on. But it's another discussion. I'm just want to comment on one little side effect, which actually for me turned out to be. I was observing it through more than a year now, and it turned out to be actually quite a positive outcome, I think, because first thing with the shifting to the virtual reality, for me, is not only connected with the somehow technological challenges, because technologically the theater in virtual space was tested and developed and tried out long before Corona, and these people were kind of the people with this expertise. When the lockdown hit us all, they were kind of smiling a little bit, or saying, you had to think about it 30 years ago, you would be prepared and so on. But it's not the technological aspect of it that is important for me, but this kind of spatial aspect that questioned the idea of this separation, because this is what we grow up with this idea of separation of profane and sacred, audience and the performer, a space of the actor, space of the human being, and so on and so on. So somehow the first reaction to the web camera starting to find me inside of my own home had a huge sensation of violation of privacy, but also violation of this main principle of separation somehow. It started to push the artists to rethink, reconsider their everyday space, because they had to become somehow the space inspiring enough, separated enough, distinguished enough to let them possibility to continue to work. Not everybody is fortunate to have some sort of studio or some sort of additional space where they could go and work in privacy and so on. Many of the people had to turn their rooms, their living spaces, into their somehow artistic spaces. And this process is really not easy. It took around half a year for people to figure out that to turn on web cameras during common meetings, it's somehow normal, that it's not violating anything. You just need to, to prepare to it and so on. So basically this revisiting and reconsidering your home once again, to me, it showed very interesting outcome, because people were actually forced to come back to finding really the main values of the space of the home. The coming back again to reconsider what is the home as a place of power, you know, the place of the place that generates somehow energy for me, and the place of my freedom, of my independency, and of like starting from just externally, how people starting to pay attention to how their space looks, and I don't know, like magazines posting feng shui for Zoom meetings or whatever. But it's not this in what I'm more interesting, but in the making a home sacred again, as a where the home is the metaphor of ourself, of our own body, of the space of our own mind and soul, because this is the general tendency that turned people's gazes back onto themselves. And basically, one of the best outcomes that many also, you know, scientists that now are observing the social processes, the best outcome of Corona is the re-evaluation again of our main values, of what we consider important, of what we consider the most powerful, what we consider secondary, and what we consider primary in our lives. So to me, is a very huge change, and very positive change, which was almost entirely forced by simple spatial restrictions somehow. And it reminded me about the expression that one of the medicine people always likes to remind during his work of healing people. He reminds that all the sacred fires in original communities, in the ancient communities, they were all fed from the fire of the kitchen. To start a sacred fire for the ritual, you always used, you know, the coals from the kitchen, from the most central part of the home somehow. And it doesn't make the sacred fire less sacred because of that. It actually helps it to gain its meaning, to gain its usefulness, its connection to the people. This was what I thought when I saw the pictures of Ricardo's performances. We do feel uncomfortable trying to bring theater to the to the mountain somehow, trying to bring Muhammad to the mountain, because mountain is greater than Muhammad, and it will never kind of walk to him himself. But that's the interesting question for all of us as theater practitioners. So it just simply shows how far we jumped from our roots by following the tricks and the sweets of institutionalized art. And we lost a lot of connection on the way, I think. It's not that I'm asking everyone to go march outside. I think that many experiments of Ricardo would not be simply possible for many northern countries simply because of the temperature. I enjoy watching these pictures, but you know what I mean. I mean, coming back to the roots, at least inside of the thinking pattern. Yes, so yeah, thank you very much, Christina and Ricardo and Dimitris for
Olga, I like very much this aspect what you opened, because I think it's very much connected with our teaching, and with also the idea of our teacher Yuri Eichitz, that you cannot separate the artist from your personal life, or very often it is separated, and that you understand that you cannot stop being artist. And of course, as you said, a lot of artists, and when you started working with them also in our online academy, we see them sitting somewhere in the kitchen or in front of the whatever, and only step by step they understand that that they perhaps like to create their surrounding, or that in this completely new life what they are now living, to be artist at home, it is a revising also, who am I the whole day. I have not anymore this split to go to the theater. Now I'm actor, hopefully artist, and when I'm going home I'm someone else. But as you said, now it's a completely new also mindset, what you just described, that people perhaps become more and more aware that you cannot separate, and that your lifestyle and whatever you are doing is either the life of an artist or it's not the life of an artist, wherever you are. So I think this is quite interesting and quite good observation what you just described. And I would like to add on this observation, because it's like yin and yang. You find this house, this privacy, and at the same time, when you are going out in the Zoom or in the whatever technological device, you are meeting much more people of the rest of the world. So the space enlarges, and it's now more natural to be in the same room, virtual room, with different cultures. And it opens perhaps also to one or the other a completely different view, what we call the spherical view of theater. That you are sitting in your home, discovering probably yourself as an artistic entity much better. You at the same time discover that you are one little element of this huge world theater, which now uniting on the space. And you are for instance, in our classes, we have people, my last class, the one was from Mexico, the one from Italy, another one from another corner of the world. And we are playing together, speaking together, listening the little improvisations, what they're trying to do, and incorporating immediately the different cultures, and understand that we are one at the theater. And I think this is also a quite interesting, let's say, possibility of what this new strange situation gives us, to open the space in our mind and understand we are part of a much huger, and really understand it by meeting the people, even if it's virtual. I would also like to know from your experiences as teachers, actors, directors, how you experience the new spaces what it does mean for your practice, or when you listened to our thoughts, where you like perhaps to add or to object to this different, let's say, new looking now at the phenomenon of space. And what does it mean for your practice? Christian, let's move, yes?
Yes, hello to everybody. The last performance that I played, directed by Yuri, was White Nights. You remember, Christine, in a park, open air,
Of course,
in Lecco, near the lake in the north of Italy. I remember that performance. It was a very, very lucky period of my life, artistic life, and the difference was between, and this is my point of view that I want to ask also to you. There is the moment of the process of the actors and directors working together. Of course, you know this period when you try to explore the material, your how you can touch the material, how you can develop the character, and you are somehow in a protected room. You need your props, your ideas, your improvisation, your silence, your time. But then arrives the moment that you have to open to the public. No? There is a conflict between, I feel this conflict between the moment of the process, so the time and the space that you use to create something, to discover something, and the moment that you present your process to a public. So maybe there is the space for the actor, the space for the director, and the space for the spectators. And how you can work to combine these three spaces and to realize your dream, that is to share the process and not lose the possibility to create a new event on stage in a live process, not to repeat what you already discovered. And very often as actor, it's very difficult to change room, to go in the open air and still try to realize something, to create something in a live process. So this is the question that I put to you also. How also Yuri maybe develop new ideas, because one of the magic moments that I have in my memory was to look Yuri 2 days before the performance, the debut. He was trying to understand the right position of the chairs for the public. I don't know if he's still in this moment of processions, how to create the right position of the public. And of course, for me, as artist, as student, as actor, was a magical moment to understand in his mind how he decided to put that chair in that corner, why. And as director, he put himself in the position to understand the point of view. But as actor, of course, I have done the moment of the research, and my voice in that room sounds in a different way. In an open air, the voice disappears. You have to use another energy, and maybe using that energy, you lose the control of your inner life. So it was somehow you spend a lot of time to again understand how to live your life on stage in an open air. And for me, it's again a conflict. Today, if you play on stage, or if you play, my personal experience, I've played also before pandemic time in church, open air, of course, and at different places, not on the stage. But my question is also if Yuri or you as colleagues prefer to work not on stage because maybe the public is too far, it can't, the public can't follow your live process, and so it's a decision, it's a choice to go outside of the stage, not only because this historical period push us to go outside, but as decision, because I don't remember the performance of Yuri on stage. Very often he likes to go in a room. I don't know. I have done also a performance directed by Yuri. It was a Macbeth in the castles, but not on stage. So, or if you are on stage, maybe you invite the public on stage with you, with the chairs on stage. It's a decision. It's artistic, and the decision that I like very much, because I can feel the energy and the live process with the public. When I have played, for example, in my experience in an amphitheater, there was thousands of persons, but for me it was I don't know. In Italy, we are not so educated, so I have seen in front of me a lot of lights, a lot of mobiles opened. So for me, it was causes of distraction to have 1,000 people in front of me, and I don't feel the public with me in the live process. For me, it was impossible to create something alive on stage. It was an illustration of life. This is my experience.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you. Yes, no, of course, and you already bring up nice memories. And your question, I would like, just by answering your question, because I asked myself, of course, immediately, and if I could answer you about the practice of Yuri Alschitz, and a lot of our guests here know him and his work. And I just realized it's a strange contradiction, because he is speaking very much about, let's say, the difference of the artists and the public. No, and you remember a lot of how it's different lives. It's the life of the profane people and the life of the artists. Like a big difference. Who are you? You should decide. And at the same time, he is always combining them. And either if it was in Accent, in our, I mean, when we did the performances in our studio, purposely, for sure, no stage. And for sure, he will not somehow elevate the actor in front of the audience. While speaking, that the actor should be elevated, but through acting and not through the stage. So he should elevate himself a half meter through his acting, but not because of the building of the theater. And this is, I think, then a very beautiful phenomenon. What happens? You separate in one hand the space, the understanding. This is the artistic space. It's my artist space. I create as artist a completely unique, wonderful, different space, an artistic space. And then I invite the audience to my space, and they get very specific places, and they know who they are, and we know. And I'm not doing, let's say, the primitive let's play together, or this, you know, let's play along situation, which is very often then, you know, let's play together, which is another format we can do, forum theater, whatever. But here, of course, I respect the integrity of the audience. He is not obliged to play with me. She will play the own theater, but perhaps is only 3 centimeters away from the main monologue, what you're doing. So the two spaces are allowed to interact, and the space of the audience joins the artistic space, but not by force, but by somehow merging as an offer. And this is, of course, then the thrilling thing for the audience, because they are invited to be in this artistic space, and they can make their experience inside of it from the outside acting, but inside, perhaps they act with you. It's up to them. It's their freedom. So this is, I thank you, Christian, because you really opened a very interesting subject of this, let's say, merging spaces as a concept of director and teacher, what Yuri is proposing. Yes, some more experiences from your practice of space and using space.
When you allow me to jump
Michelle,
in.
yes.
Yes.
We need a little bit more sound, I think, from you, if you can.
Better now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so nice to see some people back after so many years, Ricardo, Dimitris. What I've been occupied with last years mainly is, and when I switch back maybe once from video, is this new perception of space, Earth from space, and this growing consciousness that we are part of so much a bigger unit, and that the vast space is empty. That is also in the relationship between people. We are all people on this one planet, which is a sacred space somewhere in this huge space, and at the same time, we know that the majority of space is empty. And that is a space between us, is an empty space where we are invited to put in our authenticity without knowing what is happening, but sharing it with the other people. And that's, for me, the big adventure where we are part of, is sharing our lives into this world, into this huge space, without knowing what is going to happen, but being in a receptiveness and openness and dialogue position to see what is going to happen, and to leave the fixed positions we have and open up and open up and open up, and being authentic, giving into this empty space and let happen what is going to happen. And for me, that's a new part of human theater for my daily life, but also for my artistic life. Not coming from a new position, from a new perception, from a bigger perception, and opening up to the new developments.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, some more. Or my question would be also, do we need to change something in the actors' education, perhaps, or what we can, how we can support young actors, how to work with space, or how to cope with this new understanding? Even if we are coming back to the theater stage, I think people will not come back as they have been playing there just 1 or 2 years ago. Do you see there something, or did you think about it, what could be interesting for you to experience? It's also, of course, my question to my team of teachers, because it's somehow our task to think about how to work with actors on this subject of space.
to me, personally, about the space is somehow the most flexibility which is possible to find. Because step by step, space of theater, space not only for theater, space for live event will be different and different. Of course, the primary, we can say the main one, it will be the place, which is the theater, as building, as everything. But I think we should, this is my perspective, we should find a way to learn how to, and to teach, how to find the sacred place everywhere. Because it's, you can find your sacred place in wherever, indeed, where it's necessary, when it's somehow where is important that this sacred place will be. Christian before said it was hurting to me go out from the training room where I built somehow my composition, my role, everything, and go outside. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely a changing of sport. It seems like this, but indeed it's not. Probably necessary as well to teach and to make lesson in different places and to rehearse in different places directly, to make our system more flexible, to make our system more on the position of the listening of everything, every places, with different rules, but it's my system can survive at least there without so much surprises, because it's important to me, because you ask what is important to teach to the new generation, let's say. I think the word is flexibility, because creativity, of course, yes, but flexibility is the new somehow what we need, more flexibility of our system. Because, for example, Olga before said it's important to define the space of public space, of actor space. Absolutely yes, but somehow rules of the live event, the rules of the theater, it's already inside of the public as well. So you don't need to define so much the space, because the public who join performance in outside, let's say open air, already knows that exist these different spaces which are separated. Who exist of course people that doesn't know, but they look what's going on and they learn in the moment, let's say. They understand it. It's not point to create, you know, the street theater, which it's already long tradition, and it exists, and it's really important that it exists. It's somehow the way to bring the art theater outside of the theater itself. To me, to answer to one of the question of Christian, I cannot of course speak for Master Yuri Alshif, but I speak of myself, and I am telling that to me is choice to prefer the outside spaces. It's already started this work more than 5 years ago. Because I like to put the actors in the condition to find a new dialogue with the spaces. Of course, is harder to find the way to keep alive the process of the work. One trick which I'm using often with the actor is to start to work already in the place where we will perform. So they will get used to, you know, to the people which are passing and everything. And it's not so big surprise to have noises, to have like this. It's help very much. And of course, it's help very much to have actors that are looking for the life of the process, because and not for the repetition. But this is another subject. But I knew, no, this is my question to Christian. because I knew about your project, the La Città dei Miti. And I knew that you are performing the Invisible Hercules in English. So this is a way to bring art theater in a different places, indeed, which is quite strong experience. So this you can, I think, tell something about the distance between public and you and everything. So this is, I think, is interesting.
Okay, yes, thanks for the question. In fact, it's true. My new work as actor is use a space. You know, I don't know in your country, but we have very often near some churches that some houses that give food for poor persons. I think that you have also in your country. And now, unluckily, in this period, there are a lot of our colleagues that without work have lost everything, and so they ask food too, because they don't have money, and so they became poor persons too. And our performance is inside of these houses with 24 persons, no more. And I have done research on this subject, giving my work as for free as volunteer to understand to do my training inside the room, and with this so special team. And the character is inside the place as worker, and so people comes and in a sitting position, and we share the story of Heracles or Hercules, and while I'm preparing the food for the poor persons, and while I'm cooking bread. So it's a concrete space, and the character is a concrete role. And I have done a lot of training for myself to develop the character and to be friend with the space, and of course to be useful for the community. I mean, because also the other performance that we are playing use different spaces. I think that, Riccardo, you know Medea by Helena, and this Medea is on a bus, on a van, little van. Before pandemic time was only for 7 persons, and now we use a different bus for 24 persons. And so it's true, we are studying new spaces, but the direction is to use exactly the space that is useful and for the performance and for the spectator. It's concrete. It's in fact it's a real space. Real space exactly that is the house of the character, and you invite the public in the house of the character. So it's a new experience, and it again, like Riccardo told, it's a choice. It's a choice by the director, and we invite the public in our space. They have a little bit of shock, because what we are proposing in a story, they can see outside. I mean, if I'm telling how I became a poor person. When they go out, they see people that is receiving the food. If our Medea is telling the story of how she became a prostitute in Italy, slave of sex, they around with the bus, with the van, they can see the reality outside, little fire, and the life of the prostitutes in the city that is guesting the performance. So it's a little bit shocking. Before that, I started to play as actor. I was spectator of Medea in her bus or van, and it was so strange. But something so strong happened in me as spectator, and I had the actress half meter of me as distance. The same in House for Poor Persons, the distance is no more than 2 meters. And now I can tell you, it's very difficult for me to change this kind of relationship with the spectator, to see their eyes, to live in the same room with this distance. To change will be difficult, but of course I'm a professional actor, and I will go again on stage or in different spaces, and I will train it myself to to play different roles and in different performances.
I'm sorry. Sorry so much, Christian. It's really important subject that you're touching with Riccardo. I just my child is sick, so I want to excuse myself and wrap up my participation probably a little bit. Just Riccardo mentioned that I propose to separate the space of audience and performance. It actually exactly opposite. So I felt it's important to say before leaving. It's actually through redefinition of those spaces that the theater will find new artistic possibilities. This is what the history of theater in 20th century is mainly doing, inventing new roles for this somehow frames, right? Who is performing and who is observing. And in contemporary performance theory and practice come to the notion of event and the participator, right? Which unites everybody. So I think that also examples that Christian are giving are exploring this direction of contemporary theater practice that follow the idea of limitation of this participation, of mutual influence between the reality represented by space or by the reality of the audience that come somehow unprepared to the theater. They didn't rehearse anything. And the actors, which is a little bit on the position of power, because they prepare to this meeting through their rehearsal. So I'm excited about the idea of participation, about the destroying the limitation of the space, exploration, the unconventional space. At the same time, I know that we cannot be too overexcited about it just per se. Unconventionality of the space doesn't make it valuable per se. You need to really explore your limitation, because still theater comes from the manipulative position. We're in the position of power. We know we inhibited the space before audience came. So yes, so I would see the potential in this direction, and I will come back to it as soon as my daughter is healthy again. So thank you very much for today, and I will just say bye for today. Thank you so much, my colleagues and everybody who joined. And as it's the last meeting also of Team of Teachers this season, thank you for the whole seasonal year of this work in Online Theatre Academy. Thank you very much, and we see you soon. Still, we're not closed completely, so thank you.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you, Olga.
I thank you. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Olga.
Christina, I wanted to very shortly, to come back to your question about the students. I think what is important now is to inspire students to keep alive, to grow their space of freedom. The space of poetry, of sacred meaning, a space of transformation, a dynamic space or better, a dynamic relation with the space. This is what we are looking for, even in this very static, I don't know, frame of the online squared order that very often we are working. And I like very much somehow Michelle mentioned the empty space, and it's true, because it's harder and harder to find the empty space in this world of information, of images. But actually, this is the space with the less limits, the empty space.
I think this is already a perfect final, and we come back to the empty space, which I mentioned in the beginning, and it remains actual, like Peter Brook once brought to us, that in fact in this empty space, it's the most beautiful, because everything can happen, and that we move forward with the flexibility, as Ricardo said, with the freedom and the possibility, the ability to change. We decided for this meeting specifically to use now mainly the subject for the space, to think about our relationship right now with the situation, because we can speak also about space very much practical in detail, what means to educate actors to feel and to work with space and so on technologically. But we purposely decided that in these days it's really important what we are doing with the new spaces which are available for us. Now we shared some ideas, and of course there are some experiences. Thank you very much for everyone who shared her ideas. And as Olga already said, this was now our 9th Team of Teachers talk, and the last before the summer break, because we assume that now on the next Saturdays, people will go to the open spaces and will not sit in front of the Zoom meeting. And we still continue, of course, all our courses with the Online Academy. There are still some starting in May. There is still the possibility to join us in the different classes. So please go to our page and look and perhaps join. And of course, please look what we will be doing in fall. We are planning to continue, perhaps in different formats, in different ways we have to think about. And I think we will also creatively react to the situation, what will be in fall. No one has the faintest idea what will be our working situation, our teaching situation. So we will, of course, also relate to this one and to the subjects and to the formats. So for now, I thank very much to my colleagues, Olga with her daughter, Ricardo with his kids in the background, Dimitris, thank you very much, and all of you. We all together wish you a wonderful summertime with possibly a lot of outdoor performances or whatever forms to live your art creatively. Thank you very much.